Part 4, the world of ideas. As you know, this world of ideas is divided into global media cultures and the globalization of religion. Next natin ay globalization of religion. Globalization implicates religions in several ways. It calls for religious responses and interpretations. Thus, religions played important roles in bringing about and characterizing globalization. Among the consequences of this implication for religion is that globalization encourages religious pluralism. So yung religious pluralism na yun, yan yung nagkakaroon ng diversity or nagkakaroon tayo ng iba't ibang religion and sects. Bakit? Kasi meron tayong different interpretation. Dahil sa different interpretation natin, we form similar groups. We form a group with those who have the same thought as ours. So religions identify themselves in relation to one another and they become less rooted in particular places because of diasporas and transnational ties. Globalization further provides fertile ground for a variety of non-institutionalized religious manifestations, and for the development of religion as a political and cultural resource. Since globalization is the expansion of one's local products, beliefs, and practices often through technology, si religion naman will be the collection of cultural systems, beliefs, and worldviews that establishes symbols that relate humanity to spiritual and moral values. So the relation there of religion to globalization is that globalization has played a tremendous role in providing context for the current revival and recovery of religion. So religions have spread and scattered all over the world because of globalization. There are five dominant religions na recognized globally. Kasama dyan ang Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, and Hinduism. Out of those religions, meron different perspectives on the role of religion in the globalization process, which includes the modernist perspective, the postmodernist perspective, and the pre-modernist perspective. Modernist perspective. So it is a perspective of most intellectuals and academics. Its view is that all secularizations would eventually look alike, and the different religions would all end up as the same secular and rational philosophy. So it sees religion revivals as sometimes being a reaction to the Enlightenment and modernization. Si postmodernist naman, it rejects the Enlightenment. So modernist view values of rationalism, empiricism, and science, along with the Enlightenment, modernist structures of capitalism, bureaucracy, and even liberalism. The core value of postmodernism is expressive individualism. So the postmodernist perspective can include spiritual experiences, but only those without religious constraints. Postmodernism is largely hypersecularism, and it joins modernism in predicting and eagerly anticipating the disappearance of traditional religions. Globalization, by breaking up and dissolving every traditional, local, and national structure, will bring about the universal triumph of expressive individualism. Third natin ay pre-modernist perspective. So there is an alternative perspective, one which is postmodern in its occurrence, but which is pre-modern in its sensibility. It is best represented and articulated by the Roman Catholic Church, especially by Pope John Paul II. The Pope's understanding is drawn from his experiences with Poland, but it encompasses events in other countries as well. Each religion has secularized in its own distinctive way, which has resulted its own distinctive secular outcome. So this suggests that even if globalization brings about more secularization, it will not soon bring about one common global worldview. So secularization here is understood as a shift in the overall frameworks of human condition. It makes it possible for people to have a choice between belief and non-belief in a manner that it hit her. So there are transnational religion and multiple localization na nangyayari out of the globalization. Throughout this 20th century, migration of faiths across the globe have been a major feature. One of these features is the territorialization of religion, and that is the appearance and the efflorescence of religious traditions in places where these previously had been largely known, or at least in minority position. So out of that localization, transnational religion become a means of describing solutions to newfound situations that people face as a result of migration, and comes as two quite distinct blends of religious universalism and local particularism. Having that mentioned, it is possible for religious universalism to gain the upper hand, since kapag nga nasa 20th century migration of faith ay may kinalaman to sa minority position, and at the same time yung mga traditions na hindi largely known, it is possible, yeah, it is possible for universalism to gain the upper hand, whereby universalism becomes the central reference for immigrant communities. In such instances, religious transnationalism is often depicted as a religion going global. And it is possible for local ethnic or national particularism to gain or maintain the most important place for local immigrant communities. In such instances, transnational communities are constructed and religious hierarchies perform dual religious and secular functions that ensure the group's survival. So fundamentalist or vitalist movement attempt to construct pure religion that sheds the cultural tradition in which past religious life was immersed. Then, transnational religion is used to describe cases of institutional transnationalism, whereby communities living outside the national territory of particular states maintain religious attachments to their home churches or institutional. Dito ngayon papasok yung si global localization tinatawag natin. So, indigenization, hybridization, or localization are processes that register the ability of religion to mold into the fabric of different communities in ways that connect it intimately with communal or local relations. And it comes in different forms. It can be indigenization, vernacularization, nationalization, or transnationalization. Globalization ay, when in terms of religion, represents a genre of expression, communication, and individual interests. So it involves the consideration of an entire range of responses as outcomes of instead a single master narrative of secularization and modernization. Indigenization. So in here, it is connected with a specific faiths, with ethnic groups whereby religion and culture were often fused into a single unit. So it is also connected to the survival of particular ethnic groups. Second, a vernacularization, which involved the rise of vernacular language endowed with the symbolic ability of offering privileged access to the sacred and often promoted by empires. So in here naman, may kinalaman na yung language, or language yung nagiging means for us to localize. The nationalization naman is connected to the consolidation of specific nations with particular confessions and has been a popular strategy both in Western and Eastern Europe. Then transnationalization naman completed religious nationalization by forcing groups to identify with specific religious traditions of real or imagined national homelands, or to adopt a more universalist version of religion. So the question now is that how globalization affect religious practices and beliefs. So we know that globalization have influenced the community response to their religion and beliefs. So the culture and belief of certain country changes because of globalization. Then there's an accelerated globalization of recent times, which have enabled religionalists across the globe to have greater direct contact with one another. In terms of media, or the globalization, gagamit yung different form ng media all over the world on a religious basis. Specifically kapag ka mayroong special internet sites, yung mga social networks, cellphone apps, charity funds, movies, religious schools, and books. Lahat ng to ay part ng globalization. At lahat ng to at the same time ay nagagamit as tools for religion. Religion epitomizes the definition of globalization due to the fact that it can be spread more easily and efficiently through the use of different media. Kaya same thing na ang media ay nagagamit sa pag-spread ng globalization, si media din ay nagagamit para naman sa pag-spread ng religion. Globalization has freed communities from the constraints of nation state, but in the process, it also threatened to destroy the cultural system that bind them together. Is religion the cause of global conflict, or will it be a solution for us to have a global peace? Una, there is a global conflict because some people are not respecting others' belief, whether that is religious or political. Meron din namang possibility na magkaroon tayo ng global peace kung i-respect natin yung religions and at the same time yung kanilang beliefs. Yes, we do have different religions, we do have different beliefs, but always remember that we can coexist. Religion also seeks to take place of the broken traditional ties to either help communities to cope with their new situation or organize them to oppose this major transformation of their lives. Kasi hindi nga ba, kaya every time na makikita ninyo na, or every time na maririnig kayo na some people are having a hard time, especially for the Christians, they always say na ipagpasa Diyos mo yan. They always say na for you to pray. Kasi we see religion as our safe ground. And in that sense, sumasagot siya dun sa question natin na ma-achieve ba natin yung peace through religion? So, kung iti-take natin siya, possible. In conclusion, religion gives communities a new and powerful basis of identity through globalization. Globalization does not lead to identical responses from all religious actors, but sometimes globalization is actively pursued by religious actors. Religion always have two different impacts to the society. It can be positive or negative. Depende sa pag-handle ng mga actors ng globalization. Kasi religion is being eroded by globalization, religion is being strengthened at the same time, and religion is declining but it has developed new identities of hybridity out of the globalization and localization na nangyayari.